That's in and out of Congress are outraged at Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. He supported a key procedural vote that eventually led to the passage of Republican spending bill, a bill supported by Donald Trump. Now, the move has exposed fissures in the Democratic Party as it faces the crucial question of how to use its limited power to counter Trump and MAGA Republicans' effort to remake the federal government. New polls show the public beginning to sour on Trump's policies, and some Democrats see Schumer's decision as a missed opportunity to win back voters and capitalize on the disappointment many Americans are already feeling. Well, we're going to get into it with the co-founder and co-executive director of the Indivisible Project, Leah Greenberg.
I want to take
joins us at the table. Thank you.
A ride in the Wayback Machine and take a listen to what Senator Harry Reid used to say about confronting a bully. Or I can tell you what it was that he said. He said, you know, with a bully, you cannot let them slap you around. You got it? Okay, let's hear it from him.
You know, with a bully, you cannot let them slap you around, because they slap you around. Today they slap you 5 or 6 times. Tomorrow it's 7 or 8 times. We are not going to be bullied. Understand, we're dealing with anarchists. They hate government. And who is the worst part of government from their perspective? It's people that work for the federal government. We are going to do everything within our power to protect federal employees.
So that's from 2013, when House Republicans were politicizing the shutdown deadline to limit aspects of Obamacare. Where's that energy today?
Well, the energy is still there. The leadership is not. What I'm hearing from people all over the country in the last 24 hours, 48 hours, they are flabbergasted and they are furious, right? We've got activists all over the country who were ready to fight, ready to see Democrats fight, ready to have their backs, right? I was hearing from people who were planning to pull together emergency rallies to be there for folks. And they, instead, what they've seen is just this shocking self-own.
You know, Neera Tanden, who director of the Center for America, or president of the Center for American Progress. At one point, she worked in the Biden administration, a couple different advisory roles. She tweeted something earlier today that essentially said people need to understand that there's a difference between approach and ideology. And sure, there's all this conversation about the ideology within the Democratic Party apparatus, how maybe Democrats need to be more moderate, so on and so forth. Put that aside, the approach writ large across the board, from progressives to moderates to, you know, blue dog Democrats to people all over, they all want a fight. And exactly. You run an organization where folks are all over the country showing up in very blue places, very red places, even some purple places, because they are wanting to fight for their communities. Why don't all of the Democrats on Capitol Hill seem to get that? Because some do.
Well, first of all, what I would say is that is absolutely right, what Neera said. We represent grassroots groups all over the country, thousands of them. They are in every community, small areas, big cities. They are some of them are center-left, some of them are progressive. Where they are united is that they understand this is an emergency, and they want to see people fight back using every tool they've got in the toolbox. And frankly, there's been a huge disconnect over the last few months. Democrats on Capitol Hill have been having one conversation about how do they break through on lower prices, and they have not been listening to all of their constituents who are expressing the kind of alarm, fear, anger about what is happening, and want to see them fighting back in the moment. And it's not that lower prices isn't a crucial part of the story that we tell. It's not that that's not an important part of how we're going to break through and win back more people. But it is really tone deaf to only focus on that in a moment when Donald Trump is taking a chainsaw to the federal government.
Is this a progressive versus everybody else, or a progressive versus MAGA fight? How do you contextualize this fight that you see folks on the ground ready to engage in? What is the perspective here, or the focus of the fight, particularly given to Simone's point that there seems to be a disconnect between the leadership, as you noted at the very beginning of your answer, and this base, because I think the base is not just the base within the Democratic Party. That's what I'm really kind of get to. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I would say it's not a progressive versus MAGA fight. It's a fight between MAGA and everyone else who realizes what we are up against. And that spans ideology, right? You had everyone from Neera Tanden and Adam Kinzinger out there yesterday saying, block this dirty CR. We cannot, give in to Republicans. And we were out there, but it spanned the entire ideological spectrum because it was about that strategic orientation. It was about, are you going to stand and fight, or are you going to let the bully slap you around?
I think we understand organizing mechanisms for showing up for things we oppose, but there were a lot of Democrats in districts Trump won. I think we have a full screen of them. Multiple members of the Senate, including Ruben Gallego, Mark Kelly, John Ossoff. These were hard votes for them to take. You had members of the House, about a dozen of them, who took this really hard vote. How do you harness the power of your organizing to show up for them to say, you did what we believe was the right thing, and we want you to know that we noticed and we support you?
It's a great question. Well, we're heading into congressional recess, right? And congressional recess, that's the time when members of Congress, they go home to their district, they hear from their constituents. We are working with activists all over the country to make sure that Republicans and Democrats are both hearing from their constituents, that if Democrats took the right vote, they're going to get a hearty thank you. They're going to be invited to events, to town halls where they talk about the damage that Trump and MAGA and Elon Musk are doing to our country, and they are going to be getting direct touch with their constituents. We're going to cheer them on for fighting back. And Republicans, our expectation is that basically no Republican will or every single Republican will be hiding from the public over the next couple of weeks because they know their agenda is not popular. They know that if they show up to a town hall, they're going to get booed by their own constituents, people who are furious at them for enabling what is going on. So we're having those town halls for them because they're not going to have them. So what we're doing is we're keeping the heat on Republicans, making sure that even if they won't show up in public, they still have to hear from their constituents. And we're thanking Democrats as publicly and loudly as we can, where we can.
Mike Johnson and, frankly, all of the House Republicans, Lisa McClain, who is the conference chair, if you will, for the Republicans in the House, all the way up to the president, say that these folks who are showing up to town halls in the Republicans' district, they are activists or they are actually not constituents. They're paid. What do you say to that? That these are not their actual constituents that are coming there?
Well, this is just a transparently ridiculous claim, right? These are people who are rooted in their communities. They are. We often will have a local indivisible group that's making sure lots of people know about a town hall, right? But the people who come, they're people who just got their benefits cut. They're people whose, their son lost his job. They're people who are furious about what's going on because they are being directly impacted by all of these negative consequences, and they want to see their representative fighting back. And what I've seen with this claim, we had this in 2017 when we first got started. Republicans said, all those people who are mad about the Affordable Care Act, they're paid protesters. They stopped that eventually because what really makes your constituents very, very mad is if you're calling them paid protesters while they're coming to you with their incredibly heartfelt concerns. And so it's a claim that's ridiculous, and it's a claim that always backfires because it makes you look like you're not listening to your real people.
One feature of this I really appreciate in terms of what you're doing goes to the heart of the effort that's out there now within the Republican caucus leadership to tell the members don't host, don't go anywhere near a town hall. Y'all stay behind home. Don't show up. Just don't have it. I said a few weeks ago, y'all don't need your member to call a town hall. You just said you're organizing town halls in red districts, blue districts, purple districts, every district you can. Talk about that organization. How do people feed into that? How does that word get out to them, particularly in those communities in some of the reddest parts of the country, like Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Texas, et cetera, if those members don't hold a town hall meeting?
Absolutely. So what we tell our folks is, your representative should hold a town hall. It is part of their job to interact with the public. Some of them are not doing it. They've decided that they would rather take the hit for being out of touch, for being avoiding their district, than get out in public and get yelled at by their angry constituents. And so you don't actually have to wait for them. You can hold that town hall. You schedule it, you invite them. If they come, that's great. But if they don't come, have an empty chair, have a we used to say have a live chicken on stage. We don't say that anymore because of avian flu. But if you've got a chicken suit, then bring the chicken suit. And represent what they are actually doing in Washington. What we're seeing when we do this is that these are sold out. People want to come. People want to be involved in the process right now. People are incredibly eager to hear from their representatives, and if they cannot hear from their representatives, then they're incredibly eager to make their representatives hear from them.
We talk a lot about leadership. You've got Schumer on the Senate side. On the House side, you've got Jeffries, his deputies, if you will, Clark and Pete Aguilar. What do you think about the Democratic leadership in Congress? I think widely everyone is on the same page about Chuck Schumer this week. But what about the House members? They seem to have, Jeffries held his caucus together after some tumultuous weeks, I would argue, of lots of chit-chat out there about what's going on.
Well, look, he held his caucus together. This was a big vote. He did the same with the shutdown in December. And so we got to give him credit on some of these key votes that really matter. He is holding the caucus together, and they are showing up as a united fighting force. That is not what we saw in the Senate. And so I think it's important to make that distinction, and I think our people will be making that distinction. I'm expecting a lot of people to be incredibly frustrated with the Senate, and specifically incredibly frustrated with the folks who took that vote. And I'm expecting a lot of people to be thanking their House member and recognizing that they fought.
I know we have to go to break, but I just want to say that I put out a call on social media after the election and said, when people say, what do I do? What or who do you point them to? And 90% of my replies said indivisible. So I want you to know that the work is registering and people see it. And you are right. There is so much appetite now for a place to hide.
When I want to know what's going on in the streets, I call indivisible, okay? Because they are literally the streets, folks. Leah Greenberg, thank you very much.